Narcissists often approach intimacy and sex in a way that is centered on their own needs, desires, and sense of superiority, rather than mutual connection or emotional intimacy. The behavior of a narcissist in the bedroom can often be manipulative, self-serving, and disconnected from genuine affection. So I'm gonna give you key ways narcissists may behave during intimacy. Now, narcissists, they focus on their own pleasure. They have this self-centered approach. Narcissists typically prioritize their own pleasure over their partners. They may not be interested in or attentive to their partner's needs, desires, or satisfaction. The experience is often about their own gratification and validation. Narcissists have this, they put minimal effort. They may expect their partner to do most of the work to satisfy them, but give little in return, leaving their partner feeling neglected or unimportant. Narcissists also have this need for validation and praise. They need constant reassurance. Narcissists may need to be constantly reassured about their physical attractiveness, sexual performance, or the pleasure they are giving their partner. They might fish for compliments or expect their partner to praise them during or after sex. They often want to hear that they are the best lover their partner has ever had, as it boosts their ego. So in short, they seek admiration. The intimacy becomes less about connection and more about securing external validation. Now, narcissists are known for love bombing and intensity. In the early stages of a relationship, narcissists may engage in love bombing, that is in the idealization phase, where they shower their partner with excessive affection and intense physical intimacy. They may seem overly passionate or even obsessed with their partner, but this is often short-lived. Narcissists might try to overwhelm their partner with intense sexual attention to make them feel special, but the attention is often self-serving and it is used to secure their partner's loyalty. Again, narcissists use sex as a control mechanism. Sex is used for manipulation with narcissists. They use sex to control or manipulate their partner. For example, they might withhold sex to punish their partner or use it as a way to get their partner to do something they want. Again, narcissists, they have this transactional nature in their relationship. Intimacy can become transactional for narcissists, where they expect something in return, whether it's attention, admiration, or compliance with their wishes. The act of making love may be viewed as a tool for maintaining control or power in the relationship. Again, narcissists have this lack of emotional connection. They are emotionally detached. Despite physical closeness, narcissists often lack emotional intimacy. They may engage in sex but not share genuine emotions or vulnerability with their partner. The act is about physical satisfaction rather than emotional bonding. Sometimes after sex, narcissists may emotionally withdraw or even act cold towards their partner. This detachment can leave their partner feeling confused, rejected, or unappreciated. Narcissists also use sex to impress or secure status. They use sex as a way to impress others, to validate their own desirability or gain status. They might boast about their sexual experiences or achievements, seeking admiration or envy from others. Narcissists may objectify their partner. They view them as a means to an end, rather than as someone with equal emotional and physical needs. Narcissists have this inability to handle rejection or criticism. If a narcissist feels rejected or criticized in the bedroom, whether it's related to performance, physical appearance, or emotional intimacy, they may react with anger, shame, or defensiveness. They might even lash out at their partner or deflect the blame onto them. They might use guilt or shame to punish their partner for not meeting their expectations or for rejecting them sexually, reinforcing their sense of entitlement and superiority. Again, narcissists may use the intense physical connection to create an emotional Dependency. They might shower their partner with affection and intimacy, only to withdraw when they feel the partner is becoming too dependent or gaining emotional control. After intense sexual encounters, a narcissist may emotionally distance themselves, leaving their partner confused and desperate for the next moment of physical intimacy, thus maintaining control over their partner's emotional state. Narcissists also often see relationships, including sexual ones, as conquests. They might seek out partners primarily to validate their attractiveness, desirability, or power rather than out of a genuine desire to connect or bond emotionally. For a narcissist, having a sexual relationship with someone may be about proving to themselves and others that they are desirable, capable, or in control. Narcissists may dismiss or ignore their partner's sexual boundaries or preferences. Focusing only on their own desires, they may pressure their partner into engaging in sexual activities they aren't comfortable with, or manipulate them into compliance. In some cases, narcissists may push boundaries or manipulate situations to get what they want sexually, even when their partner is hesitant or unwilling. This lack of respect for consent is a serious red flag in any relationship. If a partner expresses discomfort, dissatisfaction, or confusion about the relationship or sexual encounters, a narcissist may gaslight them, denying or invalidating their feelings and making them question their own perceptions. They may blame their partner for any problems in the sexual aspect of the relationship, making them feel like the issue lies with them instead of acknowledging their own behavior. Narcissists approach intimacy and sex in a way that is typically self-serving, manipulative, and emotionally detached, rather than focusing on mutual pleasures or connection. They use sex to boost their ego, control their partner, and reinforce their sense of superiority. Relationships with narcissists can leave partners feeling unappreciated, emotionally drained, and confused, as their needs are often ignored or minimized. Now, let me give you a story that could illustrate how narcissists may use sex as a tool for control in relationships. The story is titled The Mask of Desire. Sophie had always felt like she was floating, caught between moments of euphoria and bouts of confusion, ever since she met Adam. When they first started dating, he seemed to be everything she had dreamed of, a charming, confident, and highly attentive man who seemed to know exactly what she needed. In the beginning, their physical connection was electric. Adam would whisper sweet things into her ear, making her feel desired and special. Sophie found herself thinking about Adam constantly, unable to resist the pull of his presence. The intimacy between them felt like a drug, something she couldn't get enough of. But gradually, Sophie noticed subtle shifts. At first, they were easy to dismiss. Moments where Adam would withdraw after they were intimate, leaving her with a sense of longing, a desire for more of his attention. There were times when Sophie would ask for reassurance, wondering if he truly loved her, and he'd respond with sarcastic humor or even dismiss her feelings completely. What, you think I'd be with you if I didn't care? You think I would be with you if I didn't care? Adam would say with a smirk, his tone filled with superiority. Now, Sophie started to feel like she was walking on eggshells. She couldn't understand why after each intimate encounter, he would act so distant, almost cold, pulling away emotionally. His unpredictability left her feeling constantly on edge. But then the cycle would start again. He'd shower her with affection, tell her how beautiful she was, make her feel like she was the only woman in the world. The intimacy would follow, a passionate, tender moment that swept Sophie off her feet. And then, just like before, the emotional withdrawal would happen again. Over time, Sophie began to crave these moments of closeness, not just for the intimacy itself, but for the emotional connection she could feel when Adam was affectionate. When he pulled away, it felt like she was drowning. Sophie would try anything to get him back to that tender place where he seemed to care. Sometimes she'd even become more sexually available, thinking it would reignite the spark. She didn't realize that Adam was controlling her through the very thing that made her feel loved, that is sex. What Sophie didn't understand was that Adam wasn't truly invested in her emotionally. He was using sex to manipulate her. Each time he withdrew, he created a void, a longing in her heart that only he could feel. This kept Sophie in a constant state of yearning. The physical closeness wasn't about connection or affection. It was about control. Adam knew that if he could keep Sophie hooked on these fleeting moments of intimacy, he could maintain power over her emotions. Sophie began to notice patterns. When she pulled away emotionally or tried to set boundaries, Adam would ramp up the charm, showering her with affection and physical touch. It was as though he had mastered the art of using sex to keep her off balance. Whenever she tried to confront him about his behavior, he'd turn the conversation back to her, making her feel like the problem was her own insecurity or misunderstanding. In the twisted dance, Sophie became trapped. She felt a deep, insatiable need for Adam's validation. She convinced herself that if she could just be the woman he wanted, if she could prove her worth through sex and affection, maybe the cycle of withdrawal and intimacy would finally break. But it never did. It was only when Sophie started to talk to a friend, someone who had been through a similar relationship, that the truth began to dawn on her. A friend told her narcissists don't love people. They love what people can give them. They use sex, attention, and affection as tools to control. Sophie's world shifted. She finally understood the pattern. The passion that once felt so consuming now seemed like a tool of manipulation, a leash tied around her heart. Adam was never going to offer her the love she longed for, not because he couldn't, but because he didn't see her as a partner. She wasn't a person to him. She was a source of validation, a way for him to feel powerful. In the end, Sophie walked away. It wasn't easy. Leaving someone who had given her moments of genuine affection felt like leaving a part of herself behind. But the moment she understood the truth, she realized she had to break free from this control. She learned that love shouldn't leave you in a constant state of yearning, and intimacy should be about mutual respect, not manipulation. And with that understanding, Sophie reclaimed her sense of self, vowing to never again allow anyone to use her as a pawn in the game of control. Now, this story highlights how a narcissist might use sex to manipulate their partner, creating cycles of emotional highs and lows that make the victim feel addicted to the connection. It's a way of maintaining control, making the victim feel like their worth is tied to their ability to satisfy the narcissist's needs. So what are the moral lessons or teachings from this story? The story of Sophie and Adam offers several important moral lessons and teachings about relationships, especially when it comes to recognizing unhealthy patterns and protecting one's emotional well-being. So let me give you some key lessons from this Sophie and Adam story. Now, number one, understand the difference between love and manipulation. The moral is this: true love is built on mutual respect, understanding, and care, while manipulation thrives on control and exploitation. So the teaching here is that recognizing the difference between genuine affection and manipulation is crucial. In healthy relationships, intimacy should never be used as a tool to control or influence emotions. The other key lesson here is that narcissists use love as a weapon. The moral of the story is that narcissists often manipulate others by making them feel special or desired, only to withdraw emotionally when the victim becomes too dependent on their approval. Now, the teaching here is that be aware that narcissists may use affection, sex, and emotional closeness as tools to gain control rather than as expressions of real love or care. They often want to keep their partners in a state of emotional dependency to maintain power. Now, the other key lesson is about self-worth should not depend on someone else's approval. The moral of the story is that your value should never be tied to how someone else treats or perceives you. If someone makes you feel less than or constantly withdraws affection, it's a sign of emotional manipulation. The teaching here is that it's important to build a healthy sense of self-worth independent of external validation, especially in relationships. When someone constantly withholds affection, it can diminish your self-esteem, making it harder to see the toxic patterns. The other key lesson from the Sophie Adams story is that emotional abuse can be subtle. Emotional abuse doesn't always look like yelling or insults. Sometimes it's about making you feel confused, unsure, and reliant on the abuser for validation. The teaching here is that emotional abuse can be insidious, and it often involves tactics like withdrawal, giving mixed signals, or playing with your need for affection. Recognizing these signs early is important in protecting yourself. The other key lesson from the Sophie Adams story is that healthy relationships should be reciprocal. Healthy relationships should be reciprocal. In healthy relationships, both people give and take with respect and care for one another's feelings. There should be a balance between emotional and physical intimacy. Now, the teaching is that a healthy partnership involves mutual respect, communication, and emotional support. If one person is constantly taking without giving, the relationship is not balanced or healthy. The other key lesson from this Sophie Adams story is that you need to recognize patterns and break the cycle. Being able to identify toxic patterns like the cycle of emotional withdrawal and intimacy can help you break free from unhealthy dynamics. If you notice repetitive unhealthy behaviors in a relationship, it's important to recognize them and take steps to break the cycle. Leaving a toxic relationship can be hard, but it's often the first step towards healing and reclaiming your emotional independence. The other key lesson from the Sophie Adams story is that know when to walk away. Sometimes the most loving thing you can do for yourself is to leave a relationship that is emotionally harmful, even if it feels difficult at first. Walking away from a narcissist or toxic partner is an act of self-love. It may be painful and challenging, but it's necessary to preserve your mental and emotional well-being. The other key lesson from the Sophie Adams story is that surround yourself with healthy support systems. Confiding in trusted friends or family members can provide perspective and support, especially when you are in a relationship with someone who manipulates your emotions. The teaching is that having people who genuinely care for you and can offer a healthy perspective is crucial when you are caught in a toxic relationship. They can help you see things clearly when you're too emotionally involved, to notice the red flags. Now, the key moral lessons from Sophie's story are about recognizing emotional manipulation, understanding your self-worth, seeking healthy relationships, and knowing when it's time to break free. The story encourages self-awareness, emotional independence, and the importance of mutual respect in any relationship. So, quickly, what should you know about behavior of narcissists? One thing is that narcissists have this excessive need for admiration and validation. Narcissists crave constant admiration and approval from others. They often seek validation for their appearance, achievements, or abilities and become upset or resentful if they don't receive it. Narcissists might exaggerate their accomplishments or seek out situations where they can be the center of attention. They also lack empathy. One of the hallmark traits of narcissism is an inability or unwillingness to empathize with others. Narcissists struggle to recognize or care about other people's feelings, needs, or perspectives. They may appear cold, indifferent, or even callous when others are in pain, as their primary focus is on themselves. Narcissists have this sense of entitlement. They believe they deserve special treatment, admiration, and resources without having to put in the effort that others do. They often expect others to cater to their needs and become frustrated or angry when they are not treated as superior. This sense of entitlement can lead to demanding behavior in relationships, at work, or in social settings. Narcissists often use people to achieve their own goals without concern for how their actions affect those around them. They may manipulate, deceive, or coerce others for personal gain. In relationships, they may exploit their partner's time, energy, or resources while giving little in return. Narcissists have this exaggerated sense of their own importance and talents. They often see themselves as superior to others, and they expect others to recognize their greatness. They may talk about themselves excessively and they belittle or dismiss others to elevate their own status. Narcissists are often skilled at manipulating others to get what they want. They may use tactics like guilt tripping, gaslighting, or playing the victim to control people and situations. They often manipulate emotions to keep people dependent on them or to avoid taking responsibility for their actions. Narcissists have this, they are emotionally unavailable and they lack real connection. Despite seeking attention and admiration, narcissists often struggle with forming deep, emotionally fulfilling connections. They may appear charming or loving at the start of a relationship, but they fail to maintain emotional intimacy. They might pull away emotionally or become distant, especially when they feel threatened or when they no longer need someone to validate them. Narcissists are highly sensitive to any form of criticism or feedback, even if it's constructive. They may react with anger, defensiveness, or even disdain when their flaws or mistakes are pointed out. This can result in them blaming others for their shortcomings or avoiding situations where they might be criticized. Again, narcissists are known for idealization and devaluation. At the beginning of a relationship, narcissists may love bomb their partner, showering them with excessive attention, flattery, and affection to gain their trust and loyalty. Once they have gained the person's affection, they may switch to devaluation, belittling or neglecting them, leaving the partner confused and unsure of what went wrong. Narcissists also often engage in gaslighting, a form of psychological manipulation where they make the victim question their own reality, memory, or perception of events. This tactic helps narcissists maintain control by confusing and disorienting the victim. They may deny things they've said or done, creating confusion and self-doubt in their partners or others around them. Narcissists frequently project their own flaws, insecurities, or negative behaviors onto others. For example, if they are dishonest, they may accuse others of lying or being deceitful. This allows them to avoid accountability for their own actions while deflecting blame onto others. Again, narcissists often form relationships based on surface level traits such as status, appearance, or utility, rather than emotional depth or mutual care. They may be superficially charming and charismatic, but the relationships they form are often shallow and self-serving. Narcissists are often unwilling to take responsibility for their actions or to face the consequences of their behavior. They may avoid long-term commitments or accountability in relationships, careers, or social settings. When things go wrong, they typically blame others and rarely admit their own mistakes or flaws. Narcissists often feel the need to win or be right in every situation. They may dominate conversations, debates, or arguments, dismissing others' opinions and refusing to back down even if they're wrong. This can create a toxic atmosphere where their ego is constantly defended and their partner's voice or opinions are silenced. Now, narcissists, they create toxic environments in their relationships by prioritizing their own needs over others. They use manipulation to maintain control, and they fail to show genuine care or empathy. So understanding these behaviors is important in recognizing and protecting oneself from narcissistic abuse.